Alrighty, welcome everybody. It's Tuesday night and I hope you are ready to see some fun stamping tonight. My name is Julie Brown. I am an independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator, and if this is your first time watching me live, welcome. I'm so excited that you're here. So again, if it is your first time, you can type in your name in the comments, and you can also ask any questions through comments. I do try to look up once in a while to see if there's any questions or comments coming through. I know a lot of the ladies that get on here quite often sometimes get into conversations between each other. But if you do have a question, feel free to type that in. Let's get the housekeeping out of the way so we can get going on our cards. So my hostess code for this month is SAWTBXQB. You can order through me at juliebrown.stampinup.net. My email address is juliescreativestampin@gmail.com. You can check me out on my Pinterest, Facebook, and Instagram pages, Julie's Creative Stamping. Haven't done a lot lately on either one of them, but I will be uploading a bunch of Pinterest here pretty soon. And then I have a YouTube channel where I upload these lives from Facebook directly onto my YouTube channel. And that one you have to type in Julie Brown and then a dot, and then Julie's Creative Stamping to find me on YouTube. I'm also in the middle of constructing my new website at juliescreativestamping.com. You can go on there and see some of my blog posts. I haven't been posting lately just because I am, that site is under construction, but I am adding a few things. Hey, Shanine! Welcome, welcome. So if you do go to juliescreativestamping.com, just know that it's all under construction, and if you click on things and the links don't work, that's what's going on. And I do apologize, but in the middle of trying to make it a much better and fun place to visit. All right, so let's talk about what we're going to be doing tonight. Like I told you guys, for the month of September, I am trying to show you the Perfect Partners grouping. What Stampin' Up! Did is they had some stamp sets that were both in the annual catalog and in the mini catalog, and that did not originally come with dies, and then they've come out with the dies. So I'm trying to, I don't know if I'll get to all of them. Hey, Mel! But I am trying to cover all of those. So if you did buy the stamp set, the dies are now available, but it is only going through the end of September. So it's only through September 30th. So that's why I'm trying to showcase these this month. So let's get started. So tonight we are going to be working with the Fresh Cut Flowers bundle. Again, this was the original stamp set that's in the annual catalog. And then this is the dies that came out. Now it's pretty cool because it has dies that will cut out all of these stamped images. And I'm just going to pull these and show these to you, because then I want you to see, oh, that one goes down here. I want you guys to see all of the dies that are left over, which I call standalone dies. Hey, Brenda. So see how that cuts out all of those. And then we have all of these standalone dies to cut out some other things to be able to design and create. So really, really neat set. And especially if you already have the stamp set, you definitely want to look at getting the die set. So let's get started, and I am going to do what I've been doing. I'm going to start out with a simple card, go on to the casual card, and then up to the avid card. And a simple card is basically just a card that we're just using cardstock. We're usually just using cardstock, stamping, inks, and coloring. So for this one, as you can see, I did some of the coloring ahead of time. I basically just stamped the large flower image using black memento ink, and I stamped it onto a piece of basic white. Now I am going to color in a few of these. I've had some people say that I haven't shown how to use the blends in a while, so I decided that I would go ahead and color one of the flowers for you so that you didn't have to sit and watch me do all of them. So these are our, they're called Stampin' Blends, and then we also have Stampin' Write markers. These blends are alcohol based, and that's what allows them to blend with each other. The markers, to get like a two-tone color, you have to use like different colored markers. But tonight we're going to be working with the blends. And so basically, the way I'm doing this particular card is I'm just picking some areas of the flower that I want to be a little bit darker. And trying to be real careful to stay in the lines. We do have a color lifter, if I should go outside the lines, that can help push that color back in. But I'm just trying to stay in the lines right now. And I'm talking about the lines within the flower. And then I want to go ahead and kind of put some darker coloring in this area right here. And then we're going to cover those lines right there. So that was the darker of the two. This is Daffodil Delight. Now I'm going to use the lighter, and I'm just going to use a circular motion. And you'll notice that I'm like reaching out and I'm touching that darker color. And the reason I'm doing that is because it brings it in or down into the flower. So I'm actually picking up some of that darker color as I go over it. And that's what helps this to blend together. So you do actually want to like get up in there and you want to touch that other color. And so like this one, what I'm going to do is kind of go across the whole thing. And what that allows is it brings some of that darker color down into the lighter areas. So it gives it a more shaded look altogether. And then you just kind of keep going until you get the look that you want. And if you decide that you like made it a little, like you wanted it still to be a little bit darker, you could come back in with the darker blend, which is, and when I'm talking about darker blend, it's the same color, but it's the dark one. And you could bring that back in and darken up some of the areas if you got them lighter than what you wanted. Okay, so then I'm going to bring in the Granny Apple Green, and we're doing the leaves. And so in this case, I'm just going to kind of color where the line is. And then I want this area right here, which is kind of the stem up to the flower, to be in the darker one. And I'm not going to do any blending there because I want that one to be dark. And then I'm going to come in with this lighter color. And again, you're just kind of going in a circular motion. Now these smaller areas can be a little bit more difficult to get a lot of blending in. That's why I just like traced that line to bring in the darker color. Because when you're working with a smaller area, it can sometimes be harder. Now I do want to point out something with our blends. Because they are alcohol based, you'll notice when I turn this over that they do bleed through. So you can imagine this is not something that you would want to do on a, if this was my card base and this was my card front, I wouldn't want to color on my card front directly, because when I open the card, you would see this. So the only solution would be to cover this with something. Or what I normally do, even if I'm using a white card base, is I'll still use just a slightly smaller piece of white, and I'll mount this onto the white card base, just so that you don't see this on the back side. So I do want to point that out. And then I went ahead and did the inside of the card. I stamped this in, oh, let me bring you guys back out. I stamped this in this lower corner. And then I also did a little sentiment label is what this is going to be. So I'm going to go ahead and bring in my stamps. Now, the one thing about this stamp set, if you looked at it, you'll notice there are no sentiment stamps with this stamp set. So I have brought in, you're going to see me using these two stamp sets tonight, the Go-To Greetings and the Very Best Occasions. So these are the two that I will be using tonight to put sentiments in. You guys know I love sentiment stamp sets, and so anytime I see one that has some, like this one has some beautiful font, and it has like happy birthday, thinking of you, just a note, thank you, but it's in different sizes and different fonts. So I really loved this one. And this one has some of the like happy birthday as well, but it also has some like sentiments that you could put on the inside. So I love both of these sets. And so we are going to be using these tonight. And so for the first one, I'm going to be using the very best occasions. I'm going to be using this happy birthday. And then on the inside, sending you smiles for every moment of your special day. Isn't that a cool greeting? Really love it. And I'm going to just bring in my Memento Black for this. And we're just going to tap, tap, tap. Again, when you're inking up, it's just a slight tap that you want to put on here because you don't want to get this like really set. You don't want your stamp to be saturated with ink. So let's hope I can get this straight without sticking my head. You also want to go straight down and straight back up so that you get an even coverage. So there's my happy birthday. And then I'm going to bring in our simple chamois. If you guys aren't familiar with this, basically you just get this wet and it cleans your stamps. Now I will say this, I have really gotten into the habit of only using a simple chamois, but Stampin' Up! Does sell a Stampin' Mist. And the nice thing about that is every once in a while you might want to use that Stampin' Mist with the scrubber that they also sell and spray your stamps down because it does, the Stampin' Mist is not just a cleaner, it's also a conditioner. So it can also condition your stamps. Again, so I'm just tap, tap, tapping. And I'm going to try to see if I can, if it looks straight. Whew, got it. Yes, it's straight. So there's the inside of that. So yeah, so that's the really cool thing about the Stampin' Mist is you can get it and, you know, and I would say maybe like once a month or something, clean your stamps with the Stampin' Mist. And I was trying to see, yeah, hold on one second. I think I have it here. Yeah, this is an old bottle, but it's called Stampin' Mist. And it does say cleaner, but it also conditions your stamps. So what you can do is Stampin' Up! Sells these scrubbers. You spray it on the scrubber and then you put your, clean your stamp that way. And then it also conditions it as you go. You don't have to do it, but if you want to get a lot of use and you want your stamp sets to last a long time, that's a good thing to do. The fact that I use the chamois and that I use water to clean my stamps is very gentle on them to begin with. Oh yes, Janine, and the Stampin' Mist smells very, very good too. So yeah, that's another big plus. Okay, so then what I'm gonna do, and again, this is called simple stamping because we're basically using stamps, ink, blends or markers to design this card. These are our quick and easy cards. And again, we have three types of what we call stampers. We call, you know, one is the simple stamping, one is the casual stamping, and one is the avid stamper. And I'm going to say I'm a little bit of all of them because it just depends on what mood I'm in, on what type of card that I want to make. But for a lot of you who are just starting out, I just want to show you that these simple ones where you're just stamping and just coloring in can be just as beautiful as the ones where we add all of the bling and everything to. So then we're just going to take this. At least I think so. I hope you guys think so too. I mean, granted, when we add all the sparkle and the bling to some things, they tend to kind of stand out, but I believe these cards are just as special and just as beautiful. And I really like the simple ones because these are the ones that we can turn out really fast, right? And there's times where you just want to sit down and make a few cards and put them in your stash for when you might need them later. Alrighty. So then we're just going to stick that on the front like so. You guys will notice I tend to use a lot of basic black with Daffodil Delight because I just like that yellow and black contrast. That's just something I like. So you'll see me doing this quite a bit with the black and the Daffodil Delight. Alrighty, so let's, if I can get this to lay down. All right. So there we go. So what do you guys think? Now you could add embellishments if you want to, but I really don't think that this card needs anything else except the stamping. You guys tell me what you think. You know, there's some of us that just have to have the embellishment, and if you want to, you could add it, but I don't think I need to add it to this card. I like it just the way it is. So there's card 1 with this set. Now, and I will tell you this set also goes matches up really well with the Hues of Happiness. That's a whole suite that's in there, but these flowers complement that set. So if you have that suite, this is definitely a set that you might want to look at doing, because these stamp really well with those other ones. Oh, good, Shanine. I'm glad you like this one. All right, so our next one is what I call casual. And so what we're going to do is we're just adding a few different techniques for you, different supplies. So for this one, I wanted to show you how to use the watercolor pen. And I did have to do some of this ahead of time so that it could dry so I could finish the card, but I am going to show you how I got this one started. So I'm going to bring in my embossing buddy, and I am going to rub this onto the card stock. And what this does is it kind of takes away all the static electricity, because we're going to be bringing in our Versamark, which is a clear ink pad. It looks like this. And when you ink this up on your stamp, you can't really see it. But then we're going to be putting some embossing powder over the top. Now today I'm going to show you how to, because I'm going to stamp with this one, and then I'm going to put the powder on and heat it up, and then I'm going to actually add some more stamps, and I'm going to emboss them too. So this is kind of a 2-step embossing one. But I wanted to show you how you don't have to try to get it all stamped in the beginning, because you'll see in just a minute why that's difficult, because I'm actually going to stamp this on here, and it's going to be impossible for me to see where I have stamped. Do you guys see anything? And I don't know if I bring it up here, I mean, you can kind of see where it's shiny, so you know it's there, but it's just really impossible for me to see where I've already stamped. So I'm going to bring in my little tray with my gold embossing powder, and we are going to go ahead and add the powder, and then I'm going to go ahead and heat it up, and then we're going to add the other images that I want to add. Okay, so I try to kind of get this to, you'll notice I kind of go back and forth so that it gets a good covering of that powder, and then just real softly flick that. So now I can definitely see. Now I could go ahead and stamp my other images, but because this is a powder, I want to heat it up and get those lines solid before I add the Versamark, because if I were to touch any of this with the Versamark, then it might it would take off some of this powder. Sorry, I'm gonna keep emptying this because I don't want this powder everywhere. Okay, so it's gonna get a little bit loud. I'm gonna bring in my heat tool, and this is our Stampin' Up! Heat tool. And so I'm gonna turn it on for just a few minutes, because it's good to let it get hot right off the bat. Now, one of our new fun tools that comes with the embossing buddy and the tray is these tweezers, and it just holds this, because this does get kind of warm, and so it's just gonna hold that for me. So I'm gonna try to bring this up so you can kind of see it change, hopefully. So it's got a matte finish now, but it is gonna change to a gold finish or a glossy finish. And I don't know if you guys will be able to see that very well in the camera, but I'm gonna I'll bring it up and show it to you in just a minute. Hey, Susie. All right, so I'm gonna get this all nice and heated up. And what I'm doing is I'm kind of moving this paper back and forth to make sure that it's all glossy. And this is really important because I'm fixing to stamp again. So now I don't know if you guys can see. Can you see how can you see the shiny glossy? I don't know if that's showing very well. Let me see if I turned a light this way. I don't know if you guys can see, but it is very shiny and glossy, and I can put my hand across it and none of it goes away. So now I wanted to bring in this stamp set, or this stamped image, and I wanted to add this. But like I said, I wanted to do this in 2 steps because it would have been too hard for me. As you saw, when I stamped with the Versamark, I could not see where I had just stamped. And I wanted to show you guys how you can do this in 2 steps. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring this one in, and I want it to go right there. And then I'm going to ink it up again. And I'm going to come down to this area right here and put it right there. And no, I can't see this either, but because I have this image already stamped, I have a good idea of where I want to stamp. And because I'm stamping these in different areas, I can kind of assure myself that I'm not stamping over what I've already done. Again, you can't see that, right? It's impossible to see. And that's why I wanted to do this in 2 little sections. So now I'm going to bring in that embossing powder, and I'm just going to very gently get this embossing powder to where it's just, on those flowers. So see? So there's one of the flowers. Actually, it's more like a leaf type flower. And I think the second one I did down here. All right. So there's that one. And if I bring it closer, can you kind of see the difference in like how this is matte and this one is shiny? So you can see the difference. I'm trying to be careful not to put my hand where I stamped over here. Oh, where did I bring this one in? I think it was over here. My grandkids call this the magic stuff because you stamp it and you can't see it. And then you put the powder on and you're able to heat it up. All right, so then there's all of those limbs. So again, I'm going to move this out of the way so that I do not make a mess of this, and especially when I bring in the heat tool. So I'm going to heat up that heat tool again, and then I am going to heat up those 4 limbs that I did. And again, I don't know if you guys can see it as it's changing, but when you're doing this in person, you can definitely see it change. I don't know if I bring it up closer if you guys can see it change. But you also want to be careful not to like overheat the part that you've already done. And so I'm trying to be really fast on the places where it's up close to the parts that I've already heated. So you see me working from close to the flower to going out. All right, there we go. So I kind of heard a power surge there, so I hope my husband's not outside working with the electricity. He's done that before when I've been live and kind of cut me off. So there you go. So do you see how you can do it in 2 steps and you could bring in like more stuff if you wanted to, and you could just keep going until you had everything that you wanted. So now I'm going to show you how to use the watercolors. And what I normally do is I'm going to bring in a silicone mat, and then I'm going to bring in, I'm just going to color a couple of these for you, because I did color a full one on its own to begin with, just so that it had time to dry. And I use my silicone mat, and what I do is I take like a corner and I just touch the ink pad so that I have some of the evening evergreen there. And then I'm also going to be bringing in Gorgeous Grape. This is another use for these silicone mats. And again, I'm just going to kind of fold it up, and I'm just going to touch it so that I pick up some of that Gorgeous Grape. Now, you guys might not be able to see the color. It might all look one color because it's farther away, but I can definitely see it. Now, Stampin' Up! Has these wonderful water painters, and I'm going to be using the thinnest one. There's 3 different sizes. No, I actually used basic white for this. It worked fine. So yeah, sometimes it is good to use like the watercolor but because I was doing, and you'll see why I decided to use basic white. I normally do either use watercolor paper or I use shimmery white, because it tends not to like fold up, and because when you're doing like large areas, so if I was doing a large flower, I would have definitely used watercolor paper or shimmery white. But because it's little small areas, it won't affect it as bad as far as making it like curl up. So I'm going to get this, and you see that I'm putting water over here. And let me see, I'm going to try to bring you guys in closer. There we go. So we're going to start with the leaves. So let me turn this side. And so I'm just going to pick up some of that color, and then I'm just going to go in here. Now, the nice thing about when you emboss is the gold embossing actually resists the color. And so now I can just go in here and I can just bring in this color, and I'm going to bring this closer to you so you can see what I'm talking about. So see how that limb in the center, it resisted the color. Can you see that? And so that is how you bring this in. Now, if you want it to be lighter, then you're going to get your, and I'll show you that when I do the flower. If you want it to be a lighter color, you get more water on the end. So I'm just going to do these leaves, and then I'm going to do one of the flowers for you, just so you can see how this works. But that's why this embossing is kind of a fun technique when you're working with the watercolors, because one, it also keeps it inside the lines for you, which is another cool thing about the embossed part of it. And then, like I said, the part that's embossed actually resists the color, so it shines through the color. Okay, so there's a leaf for you. Then what I do is this little, where I put water there, I'm just going to continue to go like this, and then I'll go over here to make sure it's clean. So that's all it takes to wash off this. So now we're going to work on this flower right here, and I'm going to show you how I'm going to want some dark and light areas on this flower. And so I want to make sure that this paint, the paint tip is fairly dry for the darker. So I'm just going to pick up a little bit of color, and I'm just going to come in here, and I'm going to put this in here. And I want this to be like darker than what the rest of it's going to be. And the way that you determine light from dark with watercoloring is how much water you have on your paint tip. So you can just kind of keep, like you can see, I'm just coming in with that color. And as it starts to kind of thin out and get lighter, then I just pick up more color and I come in. And that way it's keeping this a little bit darker on these edges. So I think I want this area a little bit darker right here. And as you can see, yes, this does take a little bit of time. That's why this is called casual, because it takes a little bit more effort to do the coloring on this, because we've brought in a different coloring medium, which is our watercoloring. And then I want this to be darker. And then I also want these little, the center of these flowers to be dark, like right here. So I'm gonna just kind of cover this area. Okay, so now the rest of this flower I want to be fairly light. So you'll see me squeeze and I'm getting water to come through, and I'm leaving quite a bit of water on here now. So now when I pick this up, and I'm going to come from the center of the flower out. So now you'll notice that as I go, it lightens up. And then I'm going to touch this water, touch this little water bubble, and that's going to make this lighter in color. If I want it a little bit darker, I just pick up a little bit more of that color. And then we're just going to spread that around like so. So do you see how just by the moisture content of your brush is what determines the darkness or the lightness of the flower? Isn't that cool? What do you guys think? So again, like, because I got this one dark, I think I might want to make it like a little bit darker over here. So I'm just going to kind of keep picking up the color and making it darker where I want it to be darker. And so if I wanted it to be like darker down here as well, again, I'm just picking up some of that. I'm not re-wetting my brush, but then you get the look that you want. Isn't that pretty? I hope you guys can see that good. So that's all. I'm not going to show you the whole flower because that takes a little bit of time, but then it's really easy to clean this up. I'm going to set this aside. I'll have to finish coloring this at another time, but I'm just going to bring in a baby wipe. And that's why I love these silicone mats, ladies. So now I'm just going to bring in my silicone mat and I'm just going to clean that up. Now it is getting on my paper, but that's okay. But that's how easy that is to clean that up. Now you can also use re-inkers and you can drop them on your clear blocks. Like I could have brought this clear block in and put a couple drops of an inker on here and done the same thing. Now I find that when I do that, that it's a lot more watery. And so that's why I like using the silicone mat so that I can get a better like difference in the tone color, if that makes sense. All right. So then what I did with this one is, so this is the finished one. Look at that. And you can see that I also put color in all of these little limbs that I did. So this is what it looks like finished, but I wanted to give this kind of a different look. So I decided that I wanted to come in with our Scalloped contour dies. And here they are. And for those of you that know, I number my dies. I start with the smallest one and I put a little label. Can you see the number 1? So I'm using the number 3 die. So that's 1, 2, 3. So this is my number 3 die. And I'm actually going to cut this out. And it's not going to necessarily be exactly centered as far as the part that I'm cutting out. And that's okay because I'm looking for a particular look here. And I'm going to bring in these, remember I use these Post-it notes. It's kind of like a washi tape. So I'm going to bring this in and I am going to, once I get this where I want it, like I said, I'm looking for a particular look here. And you'll figure that out when I finish the card. It is kind of centered, but not necessarily. So I'm just gonna tape that in place so that it stays where I want it. And then I'm gonna bring in my die cut machine. And we are gonna cut this out. And again, this is why we call this casual stamping, because not only am I using dies, but I brought in some completely different dies, not the dies that went with this set. And that's what we call casual, because we're adding some extra stuff. Other things that we do is we bring in some designer series paper. Now we're not going to throw this piece away because it's part of the card. But this time, instead of bringing in designer series paper, I brought in some specialty gold foil paper, and I used the dies and cut out some pieces, and I'll show you those in just a quick sec. So this is one of the dies that's in the, let me bring this in. So it's this die right here from the fresh cut stem dies. And so I brought in some gold foil and cut that out of the gold foil. And so now we're going to kind of put this card together. And so the first thing that I'm going to do is, before I do anything, I'm going to bring this piece in that I cut the center out of, and I'm going to put a happy birthday stamp here. And this time I'm using the happy birthday from the Go-To Greetings because I liked the font. I'm going to ink this up with my gorgeous grape. So I hope you guys are liking these. Not seeing very many comments. How did you guys like that watercolor technique? Okay, so we're just going to put that happy birthday right down there. Again, bring in my simple chamois and clean that stamp. I always try to clean them right away because it's just easier to clean as you go. All right, so then we are going to bring in our card base. And again, I'm using a bone folder to burnish that edge. You guys will hear me say that a lot. Burnish, burnish, burnish. Then I'm going to take this piece. I'm coming in with my Stampin' Seal Plus. And we are just going to put some adhesive kind of on each of those corners. Oh, good. You like the watercolor. Good, Brenda. And I'm just going to lay this down. I didn't get enough space at the bottom down here, so let me try to... I love Stampin' Seal Plus, but it's pretty sturdy once you get it on there, so you have to kind of... All right. So then we're going to put this like so. Now what I'm going to do is I am going to cut some of these pieces, and I'm going to adhere them with some liquid glue. So let me bring in my paper snips. And so I think I want this piece right here. And again, I'm going to bring in one of my silicone mats because I don't want to get glue all over my workspace because I have a couple more cards to do. So I'm going to bring in that silicone mat. Oh, I'm glad you like my color choices. Yay. And I'm just going to put a little dab of glue, just little dots. And I'm going to take this one and it's going to go like right there. This will all make sense in just a hot second. And then I want like this piece next. And again, we're just adding a little bit of glue. And like I said, I just like barely touch it with the glue, and I just get little dabs of glue. So yeah, so Susie says she does a similar technique with bleach. So yeah, that would look just as good. All right, so I'm gonna bring this one down here like so. And then let's see. Let's grab this piece here. And so I did cut a couple of these because I wasn't sure like how many pieces that I would use for this. And so this one's going to kind of come out like so. And then I want kind of, I think I want one of these little tiny ones to come out of the top area. And you're probably going to have like extra pieces here. That happens a lot. But you know what? I just put them in little cases to hold on to them for later, because I know I'm always going to use, you know, anything like this, I'm probably always going to use later. And so I think I'll just snip that one right there. And again, I'm just going to hit it with the glue really quick. And stick that one like right there. Alrighty, so I've got some pieces left that I can use again, which is always great. All right, so then what we're going to do is we are going, let's do the inside first before we finish that. I'm going to let that like set and dry for just a little bit. I mean, this stuff dries pretty quick, the liquid glue. But by using my silicone mat for my gluing process, it kept all the sticky stuff here and not any of it here. So another great use for that silicone mat. So for the inside of this one, I wanted to bring in, so there's, in this stamp set, there's one solid stamp. And so I wanted to use that solid stamp. Because this isn't one that we have to color in. So I just wanted to bring that down here in this bottom corner. Look how pretty that stamp is. It's so pretty. But it's like the only one solid stamp. The rest of them are like ones that you would want to either color in or, you know, you could do just black and white and it would look just as pretty as well. And then I'm going to bring in, I think, that same sentiment that I used before. And we're going to do Gorgeous Grape again. But one of the things I like about sentiment stamps is you can get all these different fun fonts. And that's why I like that Go To Greetings one. And let's see if I can get this straight. And we're going to stamp it like so. Now, Susie taught me to stamp up in the top so that you had a lot of room for people to sign. But if you don't want a lot of room to sign, all you want to do is sign your name, then you would stamp this more in the middle and sign your name and you're done, right? One and done. Okay, so let's go ahead and put this on the inside. Oh no, I'm running out of adhesive. Hold on, I gotta go grab another adhesive. Sorry about that. I usually have an extra one sitting here, but I did not, so I had to run and get it. All right, so this is going to go on the inside of our card. And you can imagine that you could do this card in yellows, in blues, in pinks, and it would still be just as pretty. All right, so to finish this one up and give it a really fun look, I am going to bring in some dimensionals. And we are just going to add dimensionals all the way around. So I always start in my corners just to make sure that I've got those covered first. And this is my take your pick tool for those of you that haven't seen it. Most of you are very aware that this is kind of my other right hand. And that's probably going to be fine. Now, if I were mailing it, I would put more along this line right here. And it's always hard for me to know whether I'm mailing cards or not. So it's probably safest to go ahead and do that. But for time's sake, I'm just going to add these right here. And then what we're going to do is we're going to bring this in, and we're actually going to fit it right over where we cut out and give it some fun dimension. So there you go. What do you think? Isn't that cool? So there's that card. So this would be more of a casual because I did bring in some dies. I didn't bring in designer series paper this time, but I definitely brought in some of that gold foil. So what do you guys think of this one? So there's the front and there's the inside. Ta-da! Done. Oh, good. I'm glad you like the idea. And it, you know, and it's just it was just kind of really simple to, you know, design that and then use that scallop contour die to cut it out just to give it some dimension and some interest, right? All right, so let's get going with the last card. The last card is a little more complicated. So let's bring in this card. So I have already done the coloring on the front of this card, and it's a base. This is our Avid card. So I went ahead and stamped, and you can see I just kind of came in and I stamped this at an angle, and then I came in with this one and I stamped it down here, and then I came back in with this one and stamped, and then colored it with blends. Okay, but now what we're going to do this really fun technique, and we're going to cut like a little window out of this, but it has to have an inside piece. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to attach these two pieces kind of together. Actually, I'm going to kind of lay this like it's going to lay in here. All right. And I'm going to try to keep this. So I'm going to bring in my die cut machine because we're going to be using the layering circles dies. And so let me grab my machine, and I'm going to show you this really fun technique. And again, you've got to, the hardest part of this is making sure that this all stays straight on this inside. So what I'm going to do, and I can't adhere it yet because there's a couple things that I need to do before I adhere it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take some of these Post-it notes, and I'm just going to secure it like so. That way it's going to keep it nice and straight. Then I'm going to line up my circle. And I'm not doing the whole circle. I just want part of this circle. And then again, I'm going to bring in some more of this Post-it note tape, and we're going to run that through. All right, so let's get that run through. Pull this off. Okay, let me just get this out of the way so you can see what I just did. Another reason why I like nice clean plates, because if your plates have any kind of black on them because you've run them through with black paper, that tends to carry over. All right, so as you can see, it cut both of these pieces out. All right, now I've still, and oh, I'm sorry, this was the number 3. Okay, so I'm gonna kind of hold this in place by this, because now what I'm gonna do is I am going to bring in a window sheet. All right, and because I've got those Post-it notes here, I can kind of fold this open. So remember, what's holding this together is these Post-it notes. So I can kind of open this up and go ahead and put my, oh, I grabbed the one that was out. I'm going to put my adhesive maybe right along here and right along here to catch, and I got to fold this. Oh, hold on. I want to make sure that's closing right. It is. Okay. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to lay this window sheet and I'm going to line up this edge with the edge of the outside, and then I'm just going to close this. Okay. So we've got something that looks like this. Now I also need to add some other pieces in here, and that's why I didn't secure it all the way down. So the next piece that I need to add right at the beginning is our sentiment. It's got to go in there first. And so this is just a piece of Pool Party. And I'm bringing in the thank you. And this is from the Go-To Greetings. And this is going to be done in Night of Navy ink. So again, this is an Avid card, so it's all about building, right? With Avid cards, we build. And it can get a little difficult to do that. Okay. So the other thing that I need to do before I place this is I need to go ahead and place my inside piece over here, which is going to be a little tricky. Because again, I want to keep this in place so I don't move this. So I'm going to remove this Post-it note. Maybe. That's not removing really good. All right. I'm going to try to keep this really still so that it doesn't move. So Susie, you don't have any idea where I'm going with this card, and that makes you happy. Yay! It's a surprise. So now I'm going to take this piece of Designer Series paper. It's from the Hues of Happiness, and I'm going to lay this right there. Can you see how these flowers are kind of like the flowers from this set? That's why I said it actually goes together really good with this particular suite. Oh, that moved. Ah! All right, I'm going to have to do some adjusting. Shoot. All right, so now I'm going to come in with this piece here and get it laid down in place. Gosh, I would be so happy if I could actually lay something down straight the first time. All right, there we go. All right. Then what I'm going to do while I have this here is I'm going to stamp this inside sentiment here with Night of Navy ink. And it's going to say endlessly grateful. So the front says thank you. The inside is going to say endlessly grateful. And this is where it starts to get exciting. I love it when you guys have no idea what I'm doing until the end product, right? Oh, I forgot to clean my other thank you. Let me clean that one. All right. All right, so then what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to, I'm looking over here to try to get it centered. And so I'm just going to lay this down the best to the center as I believe. It is, and it's okay if it's not perfectly centered, but I'm kind of looking over here, and then I'm going to kind of center it here, left to right, and up and down. See if I can get that straight. Okay, ta-da. All right, so now I'm going to remove these, And I am going to have to kind of redo this since it kind of came undone, which is okay. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to shut this, get this lined back up. And it really isn't that hard to line it back up. All right, and now I'm going to be putting this in here. And I had to do that inside so that it would cover that. So again, I'm just gonna, oh, I think I did that on the wrong side. Sure did. Oops. Don't mind me. We can only put adhesive on that other side. So I'm using my adhesive glue remover to get that off of there. I knew I was going to do that. I kept telling myself, remember, you only put adhesive on the left side. So bear with me as I get all this adhesive off that I wasn't supposed to put on this one. Okay. So we've got this, and so I'm kind of looking like it's going to go to this edge. So I can only put adhesive on this side right here. So I'm just going to put like 2 things of adhesive over here. And then I'm going to open this up. Let me make sure that's lined up, and it is. So I'm going to open this up, and I'm going to lay this down directly over that other sentiment and flush with this right edge. And push that down. Okay, so now I can go ahead and run more adhesive here, and that's what's going to hold this piece to the front piece. But again, because I know I'm moving this as I'm putting this on here, I'm going to very carefully shut this and make sure that it's still lined up, and it is. So now I'm going to shut that like so, and that gives me this little window to open and shut, and it covers the inside sentiment. So now we're going to decorate the front. This is the avid part right here. Okay, so now I'm going to bring in one of these strips which matches this paper here, and I do want to point out I picked this paper so that it's darker at the top, and so you can go ahead and sign it down here and still see it. All right, let me burnish this edge. This is kind of a fun fold, but not really. Okay, so now I'm going to bring in this really fun border, and we're going to bring in the die cut machine one more time, and then we're done with die cutting. And again, I'm just going to take this and I'm just lining this. The curvy part is even with this edge here. And I'm going to bring in some of these strips to hold that in place. And then we're going to run this through. And I love that this set actually has a border die. It's you know, besides all the flower dies and all the standalone dies and everything else, it has this really fun border. So we're going to take all this off, and you're going to get to see how fun this border is. All right, so let me just move this off out of the way. All right, so see how fun that is? It made such a pretty little border on there. I love border ones. So now what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna take this. We're gonna add some Stampin' Seal Plus. And we're going to keep this closed, and this is going to be right on that edge. So I'm going to lay this down right on this left edge. Like so. Okay, so it's bringing in some designer series paper. Okay, so then I went ahead and I pre-cut out some of these little, these are the little tiny flowers there, and they're detailed. And so I cut a lot of these out. I'm going to be bringing back in my silicone mat. Now, I did not use adhesive strips, and the reason I didn't is because I don't want, these are going to overlap like so. I'm going to make sure the little holes are down on the solid, but then I'm going to have flowers overlapping right here. And because of that, I did not want to use the adhesive strip because I didn't want this top part to have adhesive on it. So I'm just going to put again, and you guys will have to bear with me. There was no way for me to speed this up because I had to show you that first part. So bear with me. So basically now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to kind of go around and I'm going to add a row of these flowers. And I'm trying not to get a bunch of glue because I don't want it to come out from underneath. So we're going to go with the yellow. And then let's see what I want to do next. I think I want to bring in a Night of, well, I've got Night of Navy here, so I think I'll do a Fresh Freesia or maybe a Pool Party. So this is the part where you have to kind of go back and forth, you know, what do I want? But I'm just trying to like barely get glue touching this because I don't want it to be really sticky and nasty. So then I'm going to come in with my next one. And my first layer, I'm just touching these petals to each other as I go around. Okay, so then I'm going to come in with a Fresh Freesia. And like I said, these are, you know, this is why we call this Avid, because it's a few more pieces that you're working with. And it does take a little bit more time to do these. But, you know, I believe that there are some Avid cards that are way worth the work to put into it. Okay, so then that one's going to go there. And then we're going to come in with a Night of Navy one. And like I said, I was really trying to find a way where you guys didn't have to watch me glue all of these little pieces. But there just really wasn't a way. Now this one is a little tricky because we've got to get this on here so it does not cover that T on the thank you. So it actually has to come back down here a little bit more. All right. And then we're just going to follow that pattern again. So then we're going to go with a Daffodil Delight. And like I said, you know, I mean, I believe that all of us have a simple stamping within us where we just like the quick and just stamping. I believe all of us have a little bit of Avid in us where we enjoy making it a little more special and adding a few more layers to things. You know, like I said, I think all of us have this within us. It just depends on what mood we're in, right? Sometimes we just want it to be fast, and sometimes we're willing to put a little bit more extra effort into how the card comes out. Okay, so this one's going to go here. And then we need a Fresh Freesia, and this one is probably going to go off the edge a little bit. I'm going to see, do I want it to go off the edge and trim it, which is probably what I will do. So that means I have to kind of pay attention to the glue process and make sure I've got glue on those edges. Or I could kind of, I think I'm going to overlap this one because I'm actually going to add a few more flowers that I have actually overlapped. And so we'll start with, this will be our first kind of overlap right here. All right. So we've got that. And then now what I'm going to do is I'm going to come in and I'm just going to add some overlapping. So like we need a Night of Navy kind of up here as an overlap. But I want to make sure that I don't cover kind of where the center of the flowers, because I want to put some fun stuff in there too, of course. So this one's going to come down a little bit, but it's going to overlap. All right, and then I'm going to come back with, let's see, where do I want to put? I think I want another pool party, maybe. This is the hardest part, is when you're designing and you're just trying to figure out how to lay all of it down. But can you see why this is kind of called avid stamping? Because you're just adding more layers, basically. Whoops. That one came loose. Again, you do want to kind of hold it for a quick second. Then we're going to do a Daffodil Delight right here. I think we're only going to need, I think, a couple more, and then we're going to be done. And then we're going to finish it up with some embellishments. So then I'm going to bring this one in kind of down here. And we're going to need another Night of Navy, I think, on this end. And if you liked just the one layer, that's fine too. You know, this is all, you know, very subjective to what you like, and whether you like a bunch of flowers coming in or just a few. And now I'm thinking I probably should have kind of, and I may do that. So I'm kind of not liking these ones that are just blatantly on the top. So what I'm going to do, watch me do this, is I'm going to pull these up a little bit. Hold on. See, this is what happens when you're designing. This happens to me all the time. I start laying things down and then I'm like, you know what? I want that yellow one kind of, even though it's lower, I kind of want it behind this Fresh Freesia one. So you'll have time to go back and adjust all of that like I just did. All right, and then let's see. What do I want to do? So, and again, so here's another one that I may want to kind of pull these up a little bit. And I want to put this Fresh Freesia like up underneath there. So I'm going to just bring in my little tool here. And I'm actually going to put this lower one kind of behind those that are up higher. And it's all just how it looks to you as you're compiling this and getting it put together. That's why it's subjective to what you like and how it looks in your eyes. All right. Okay, so there's getting all those flowers on there. And now what I'm going to do, and like I said, I might go back and, like, this kind of looks a little muddled in this area, so I might go back and like bring this up. Actually, I'm probably going to do it right now while I'm talking to you guys. As you can see, this glue takes a little bit of time to glue down, so you can adjust if you want some of those petals in front, some behind, all of that good stuff. Okay, so the last thing I'm going to do on this card is come in with my Take Your Pick tool, and we're going to bring in some of our pearl basics, some of these little tiny ones, and we're just going to add little pearls right to the inside where that open dot is on those flowers. And again, you'll see I'm having to kind of lift the leaves, and I do want these, you know, that's why I didn't glue them solidly down, because you'll watch in just a second as I finish this up, I'm gonna make some of these kind of curl up to give it even more dimension than what I've created by building this with dimension. But as you can see, this isn't, you know, the avid stamping is not for everybody. But, you know, I think sometimes all of us just kind of get in that mood where we just kind of want to just sit and play and decorate a card. And we sometimes go over the top with our decorations. I don't do that very often, but as you can see, I do it. I can do it. But I don't do it a lot. Okay, so there's all the little pearls in there. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of bring in my Take Your Pick tool, and I'm just going to kind of use this as a little guide. And actually, I don't even think I need to do that. So now, because this is pretty much dried, I can come in and I can fold up a bunch of these leaves on these little flowers, which again just adds even more dimension than I've already done by building this. And I'll get it closer to you. This is one that's definitely doesn't look as good on camera as it does in person. It's so stinking cute in person. I think on camera it gets a little bit muddled. So what do you guys think? So pretty, right? And I know it looks a little like, you know, jumbled in the middle, but I just really love adding that really light, delicate dimension to this that kind of covers that what we colored in the background. And like I said, it really doesn't show as good on camera as it does in person, because this is really cute in person. So, oh, I'm so glad you guys think it's beautiful. So, and you guys can see it really didn't take all that long, but what a fun card, right? Because we added the little window here, and so fun. All right, so let me bring in all of our cards for this set that we've done. So this was our simple one, and this was our casual, and then of course our avid with all of the bells and whistles. Oh, I'm glad. Oh, Brenda, I'm especially glad you like it, because you're kind of my you're kind of my avid stamper on the team, right? So there you go, guys. So yeah, oh, thanks, Janet. Yeah, delicate dimension is a good description, because it really is. And like I said, I knew on film, you know, I don't know if it looks as good to you guys, but this is just so pretty in person. And I hate it when I put things on camera, because when I'm looking at it, I'm like, oh my gosh, they can't see how cool this all looks together. And I always hate it when it's on camera and it does that. So let me bring it in. So this is the bundle. It's the fresh cut bundle. And again, remember, those dies are only available through September 30th. And then here's all of the cards that I did with it today. Yay! Alrighty. So I hope you guys enjoyed that. I hope this was kind of a fun new way to do a card. I'd seen this a long time ago, and I thought, oh, how fun. This would be such a fun one to do. And like I said, I just wish you guys could really see it. Oh, the avid one is your favorite. Oh, I'm so glad, Janet. I'm so glad. So yeah, and it really wasn't that hard. I mean, you know, obviously you have to take some time to cut all of these pieces out, but it is worth it when you spend the time to do that and then fold up all of those leaves and stuff. So Again, as usual, ladies, I'm so glad that you joined me tonight, and I hope that I taught you some fun techniques with both the watercoloring and adding dimension to that last card and using some window sheets. So I did kind of a lot of techniques tonight, but I hope that it was helpful to you and it got your creativity going. And again, don't forget this set. The dies for this are only good through September 30th. Sometimes Stampin' Up! Does carry things over, but there's no guarantee that they're going to do that. So I just want to make sure you guys get to see as many of these things as you can, so that you can make these decisions before September 30th. So I know I have 2 more sets to go, and I think I have 2 more Tuesdays. If not, I may have to throw a one in so that I get all of these. They're called perfect partners that they've come up with these die sets for. So anyway, guys, thank you so much for being here. Again, don't forget, if you don't have a demonstrator, I'd love to be your demonstrator. Make sure you like, share, make sure you share this video with your friends. And if you're watching this on YouTube, please make sure that you go ahead and type in comments because I will see them all later. Everybody have a good evening, and I'll be back next Tuesday. Talk to you soon. Bye.